You guys wanted more boss fights and I brought you the boss of bosses, Mewtwo, and not just any Mewtwo, the first movie Mewtwo from back when Mewtwo was the pinnacle of Pokemon. For this build, we'll be making the assumption that during the events of your campaign, trainers and various superhumans from all over have received the invitation to challenge a Pokemon master. Ash and his friends are not present to intervene. PL21. I did not want it at PL21, I wanted it at PL20, but I could not fit the world's strongest Pokemon in such a puny point total. For those of you not Pokemon savvy, Mewtwo is a psychic type, which means it takes double damage from bugs, ghosts, and the dark element. Raven from Teen Titans and Cinder from Spyro, now is your time to shine. He's also pretty bitter toward humans for using him, and it's kind of hard to say if he despises naturally occurring Pokemon, but safe to say they're viewed as inferior to stronger clone Pokemon. I based its stats largely off its video game counterparts, or at least I did until I made cuts during my initial attempts to bring this thing down a hair. To hear Mewtwo speak, and to realize he reconstructed the lab he destroyed, I believe it's worth assuming he's a little on the smart side. It's likely worth boosting his awareness, too, as a result of this, but he showed no special use of that during the movie, and I did want to put points elsewhere. Flight. I thought about giving him Flight 5 before I realized the sample Psychic in the core rulebook has Flight 5. Mewtwo is supposed to be the ultimate Psychic, he can have Flight 6. We discussed the weaknesses of Psychic types earlier, let's talk about their resistances, which is Fighting and Psychic types. Now, Fighting types are a huge pain to quantify in Mutants and Masterminds 3E, or in any case when wondering how a Pokemon would fare against a character outside of its own series. This covers more than what it's supposed to, but I chose to tack on Bludgeoning and Aura damage to represent Fighting. If you feel Bludgeoning is a little too broad for that, reallocate those 10 points back into the stats I slashed for your own Mewtwo. Comprehend animals. Pokemon in general are kinda animals and kinda not. It's a lot to go into right now, just accept it this time. Most Pokemon are assumed to have 4 moves and 1 ability, but none of us have ever cried out, "Thank heavens for pressure!" So we're going to replace that with something Mewtwo actually used in the movie, telepathy. Everyone in his immediate presence got to hear his psychic voice, which can probably be projected further than this, but let's not start up any fan theories. Also, we're only going to take 3 moves, Psychic for floating Mewtwo and all his friends away at the end of the movie, and Mind Control is something we're going to take as an alternate effect, because being able to do both at once isn't something he showed in the movie, and besides, both at once is a bit much. Shadow Ball is generally his go-to ranged attack, and when met with an approximate equal, they chose to duke it out by ramming their force fields into each other. I'd call that a strength attack. Technology and science for rebuilding the lab he was made in, and really even just setting up New Island to look all nice. Speaking of, I tried to give him back a little bit of his speed with improved initiative. New Island, size 5, it's a big place. We can spare it a little more toughness to make its base toughness 10. I assume it has a power system for the lights, and it does have a PC for sure, and it's in the middle of an ocean, which, if you want to be accurate, is currently storming. The real notable feature here is its summon effect. It's gradually producing new Pokemon clones that may or may not decide to stay loyal to Mewtwo's ideals, such as Mewtwo, who was kind of good either way on fighting. Part of why I took the heroic modifier. That and having them subject to the minion rules would make it harder to ensure Charizard 2 succeeds against Ash's Charizard in a one-on-one. So why a Mewtwo to challenge your players? Even if you chose to limit his backup to clones of the 3 starters, you can still barely get close to him because of Barrier and Psychic, all before a stamina that can contend with some of the more powerful archetypes in the core rulebook. Players do have the option of attempting to enter New Island through a side passage and find Mewtwo's lab. Perhaps there an inventor might throw something together to counter Mewtwo. Your best bet though is to roll Persuasion to make him see that it's not the circumstances under which one was born, but how you use the gift of life that makes you who you are.